So business model innovations of waste social enterprises in Lagos. I wanted to share some principles and lessons from that. It was a research I carried out in 2019, completed my PhD, submitted my thesis in 2021. And I felt like this is an opportunity for me to actually talk about their business models and their commercial innovations that they have done, and to extract out lessons from that. Right. So, but before I start, I just want to quickly point out to these two things, right? Inventors are different from innovators, right? So inventors sort of, create things from nothing, basically create some things from what has not existed before. And they sort of invent it, like, Michael Faraday, has been accredited with electricity, right? But you have innovators like Elon Musk, right? Who are like they improve what is already existent. So innovators take on what is already existing, all right? So that is the difference between you being an inventor and you being an innovator. And in this particular theme, where we are talking about innovating your commercial model for sustainability, that means the first thing that has to be on your mind is that there has to be a commercial model. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be your model. Maybe you have not even started at all. Maybe you're an NGO, you don't even have any business side to what you do, or maybe you have been running your business for a long time, right? And then you need some sort of new things. You need innovation. So there has to be one. There has to be a commercial model. There has to be a business model you're looking at. That then you want to innovate. Okay, so that's the first place I wanted us to start from. And you also need to know that innovation can take place in any part of a business model, and that is important. Okay, because whenever they define innovation or business model, they say how a business or an organization makes money, right? But it makes people to lose focus of the entire business model. They only focus on the money part. So they only focus on the revenue and the costs. And they think that is the model, as long as it brings them money. But you have to know that your business model has so many components to it. And all those different component parts of it are areas for innovation for you. And when you innovate any of the component parts, it's going to help you innovate your entire business model itself. So I think this is another point I want us to take note as I continue on this particular presentation and share more from those business models with you. So when we talk about existing commercial models, especially in an African context, right, you have two options, which are really great. You have the formal linear economy, right, like your private sector, like the businesses that government recognized, but you also have an informal or shadow economy, and in Africa, we are kind of blessed with both. Think about any sector. Think about food, for example. You have the government licensed fast food centers, that sell like your McDonald's, some of you KFCs, government licensed and regulated, right? But you also have, like, when you live in any part of Africa, you also have your street corner, your shop, little woman in front of a house, selling cooked food in front of a house that probably the government doesn't even know she exists, right? So that is food. Transportation, you have them. In waste, you have them. You have the waste collectors that are government licensed. You have the informal waste collectors that government don't even know they exist sometimes, or even don't want them to exist, right? So you always have to know that you have two kind of economies here, two kind of commercial models you can look at. You can look at commercial models in the private sector and the formal sector. You can also look at commercial models in the informal sector, because they also have commercial models going on there, right? So it gives you opportunity, more robust opportunities for you to actually find areas for innovation, right? So these enterprises I looked at, before I share the principles and lessons from their business model, I wanted you to kind of get a picture of who they are, right? They operate in waste recycling, waste upcycling, like Olamide will share later. She's one of them in the waste upcycling space. And then you have those that are into cleanup and advocacy as well. Now, these enterprises are well known. Some of them have got their business models scaled locally, internationally. They've won massive, grants. Like, one of them won recently 200,000 euro from the King Baudouin in Belgium. They are well recognized globally in terms of media. CNN, BBC, Economist. They've won all kinds of awards that you can think of. They have partners like local and international, like Tony Lumelu, US Consulate, MasterCard Foundation. Olamide here is he works very closely with the US Consulate. I believe she'll probably talk about that when she presents, our business model. So yeah, so they are well known, they are well recognized. So if I'm going to be sharing some of their principles with you, that it's coming from, organizations that are well established, right? So they've been doing it. Some of them have been in existence for 10 years. So these are well-established business models. And I literally studied them. I went to Lagos, I spoke with them, I spoke with their team, I spoke with their partners. So I got an insight into the areas where they have innovated their business model. And that is exactly what I want to share with you. I wanted to share 6 areas where you can innovate your business model. So 6 areas where they innovated their business model. 1, I'll talk about the social problem area. I'll talk about the social mission. I'll talk about the social value proposition, talk about the resources, processes, and impact measurement, right? So social problems. What is the problem you're trying to solve? If you are thinking of innovating your business model, this is one of the best places for you to start, right? And what I found these enterprises do is that they interconnect the social problems, because that gave them the room for innovation. So I give an example there, like the waste recycler. I won't talk much about the waste upcycling because Olamide will tell you that. So I'll talk about the waste recycler and those that are into cleaning and advocacy, right? So what it did was to bring together the problem of poverty and unemployment that was very common, and it's common in most African settings, right? With the problem of waste pollution, which is another very common problem that we face, right? And that then give them an opportunity to innovate. Because, for example, if you're an NGO, you probably will be addressing one or the other, right? So you probably will not address both. You probably be addressing pollution and say, I'm an NGO tackling waste pollution, or I'm an NGO tackling poverty, issue of poverty or unemployment, right? But these social enterprises brought this problem together because they found out that for you to motivate people to collect waste for recycling, you have to be addressing their livelihood problems as well. And that led to how they sort of innovated their business. It created opportunity for them to be innovative and say, how can we bring these problems together for us to be able to solve them, right? And that gave them the room for innovation. So if you are thinking of innovating, this is one of the places to start. And I would advise you to look at the Sustainable Development Goals indicators. Okay, the link is there. I can pop it later in the chat. So that Sustainable Development Indicators give you all range of areas that are like sort of like areas that are still kind of we are still struggling with in Africa. Any of these areas are areas we're still struggling with in Africa. Whether it's red or green, we are still struggling with it across Africa. Okay, so for example, if you're an NGO, you are into child stunting. You're trying to address the issue of child stunting, for example. There are so many problems that you can actually combine with that. For example, ICT skills. There's still a shortage of ICT skills in most parts of Africa as well. So you can actually bring that together. For example, maybe develop an app, that can teach people about nutrition, teach people about how to, eat well, and that will then help, to avoid issues of child stunting. So by you doing that, you're already addressing two issues. You're addressing issues of child stunting, and you're also addressing issues of ICT skills shortage. You see, anytime you bring together problems like this, it gives you room for innovation. So that's one of the things I wanted to share. Second is, what do you want to do about the problem? The social mission, very important, a very good place for you to also think of innovating your business model is your mission. Okay, what I saw these enterprises do actually is to align with local and global sustainability teams, especially the global one. So for example, teams like the circular economy, because they are into waste, so they align with the circular economy. And what happens when you do this is that because you are aligning with a global theme, right, it gives you access to the strategy, to the tools, to the processes and the procedures that that particular theme has. The circular economy already has strategies like recycle, reuse, repurpose, so many of them, right? And it has different processes and principles that is associated with that. And because you are aligning your mission with that, like they did, like in the example I gave, engaging households to recycle waste. Recycle came from, is part of the broader word that is part of the circular economy, right? So it gives you an opportunity for you to innovate because you can use those tools in that particular global team you align with to sort of start to innovate your business models. That is one of the things these social enterprises are doing. And there are so many things out there like the Sustainable Development Goals. A lot of you probably are aligning with that already, or maybe you need to think again about your business model and say, what other things are out there can I align with? Because the moment you start aligning with something that connects with what you're doing, you can't just align with any other thing. You have to make sure that it actually connects with what you are doing in your enterprise. And then that gives you an opportunity for you to innovate. So there's net zero, there's climate justice, there's climate action, there's circular economy, there's regenerative agriculture, there is renewable energies. All these are global theme movements that you can actually align what you're doing with. If it aligns with it, you can align with that, and it gives you access to download principles and strategies that you can use to innovate your business model. These enterprises are doing that. The third thing is social value proposition. What are you offering? What program are you offering? What product are you offering? And also what service are you offering? A room for innovation is when you alter that, when you change that. You have to look at what is existing. What is the existing product? What is the existing services? It might not be your product. It could be a product in the private sector, like I talked about earlier, or it could be a service in the informal sector, like I talked about. But you have to be knowledgeable enough to know the products and services out there already that you can then take on board and innovate. Olamide was doing that in her enterprise. I will let her talk about it, in terms of how she actually transforms furniture, for example, that is already, some of those designs are already, out there in the private sector. In the, some of those furniture designs are there, but then she's innovating it with waste, right? So I'll leave her to talk about that. But you also find that as well in the waste recycling space, where informal waste collection services is not new. It has been there for ages. And what you have now is sort of like an innovation, or an innovation of that model. in terms of how they go door to door to collect waste. So always pay attention to your context and look for existing product and existing services that you can alter, that you can change, that you can modify, and that gives you room for innovation. Fourth, resources. You have to think about resources that are discarded, what resources are underused, what resources are neglected, what resources are abandoned. These are opportunities for innovation. That is where you can find ways to innovate your business model. These enterprises that I looked at are using waste, things that you would have thrown away. Instead of you focusing on resources that are overused, because that's what the linear economy usually does. They want to keep mining out these raw materials, resources, and then it has caused a whole lot of climate change problems now in the world. It's high time we start to focus on resources that are actually abandoned, discarded, neglected, ignored. And you also have this, for example, the youths in most part of Africa are not employed at the moment. Some of them are employed in underpaid jobs. Some of them, their skills and capabilities are underused. Those are resources for you to actually look at. How can I take that? How can I use that? How can I leverage that? And it gives you a room for you to actually think about what you're doing, to rethink it and to innovate it. So that is resources, and it's another great area for you to innovate. Your processes, your activities, your relationships, that you need to create and deliver value. So creation of value and delivery of value, very important. And a very good way of innovating this, or an area of innovating this, is exploiting opportunities for efficiency and fun. What I find these enterprises doing, I won't talk about the efficiency because most of you probably know that already, because you can use technology to make a process or an activity become better, right? But I want to talk about the fun. The fun part is what a lot of us probably don't think about. And whenever you're working in the sustainability space, you need to think of fun, because you are dealing with issues that probably makes people very sad. Talk of issues of pollution, issues of poverty, issues of not being able to pay your child's school fees, not being able to feed yourself, hunger. These are issues that make people sad, angry. So you want to think about, if you want to address any of the problems in your communities, you've got to think, how can I make it fun? Okay, these enterprises have figured that out. Okay, for example, the cleanup activities that I was fortunate to visit some of these cleanup activities, and they are so fun because some of them bring out DJs, they bring dancers, they bring colorful uniforms and all that, and it makes it fun. People want to participate in that. Okay, so when you think about where in my business model am I creating fun, it will give you an opportunity for you to innovate that. Okay, because as I'll show you later, wherever aspect of your component you innovate is going to affect your entire business model, like I said earlier. So think of, how can I make my business model, current business model, more efficient or more fun? And you would have found a space for you to innovate. And lastly, your impact measurement. Traditional business model, traditional linear economy, traditional private sector model is just to look at revenues. How much money are we making? You are a social enterprise. You've got to be broader than that. You've got to think beyond just making money. You've got to think about making impact. In fact, that should sort of come first, right? If you are able to expand the indicators that you want to measure, you would have found an area for innovation. So before you even start, just think, what exactly am I set to do? And what do I want to measure? So do I want to check how much waste I'm removing from the environment? Is that important to me? Do I want to measure how much children I'm taking back to school? Do I want to measure how many children I'm able to feed? You see, when you actually find out the different indicators you want to measure, then you will start thinking, what do I need to do to measure this? What do I need to do to capture this? Then you start to think about activities. You see, you already have room for innovation there. So expansion of indicators is an area for you to actually think of innovating your particular business models. So that will be the last thing. And I should let you know that all of these different components I've shared with you are all interconnected. So you don't need to worry about innovating that means I need to do this, I need to do that. No, you just need to focus on one part of it. If you are able to innovate your social problem, you will be able to innovate your entire business model. If you're able to innovate your social mission, you will do the same. If you're able to innovate your impact measurement, you will be able to do the same. Whichever you focus on will give you an opportunity for you to innovate your entire business model, because there's no way you will change one aspect of the model and it will not create change in every other aspect of the model. And I will round up with this. There are some qualities that are important. Of course, you need your passion, you need drive. I saw this in all the social enterprises I spoke with. They are passionate about what they do. They are passionate about solving the problems they set out to solve. And you will need that, because innovation always comes with failure. Some people innovate so many times before they get it right one time. And it's only a passion that will get you through that. So you have to find your passion. Okay, don't just do it because you think it's a good way to make money. No, do it because you're actually passionate about seeing that problem solved. Okay, so ASEW is one of those. It's something that I'm just passionate about, just to make sure that we share most knowledge that we have on social entrepreneurship and bring experts to come and share this knowledge as well, to develop that space. I'm passionate about it. That's why I'm still doing it. So you have to have your passion, right? And two, the background and your prior experience matter. You know, what is your background? Olamide here will talk to you about our enterprise, right? But she was well experienced in the private sector, and she would tell you, I could remember when I was speaking to her, and she was telling me clearly how the experience in our private sector has helped shape everything, our processes, our structures, our policies, and everything she does in our enterprise. So you need to not write off your background. Don't write off your professional background. Don't write off your educational background. Your familial background is another one you don't think about. The area you grew up in, where you grew up in among your family, the issues you battled with in your family. All these are great areas for you to find your passion. So you want to ask yourself, you know, what is my background that I'm trying to put off? That could be the place where you actually need to go back to and find innovation. So lastly, your research. You need to do research, okay? All these component parts that I've shared with you, before you start to connect those social problems, you need to know there's a problem. Okay, so you need to know those problems exist. Don't just connect the problems without actually finding out whether in the context you are looking at or you are situated, that those problems actually exist. Do your research. So I will leave you with these two good quotes because I just love them. What good is an idea if it remains an idea? Try, experiment, fail, try again, and change the world. This is by Simon Sinek, and you know, I just like it. It's just trying to let us know that innovation will always come with failure. What's about you continuously trying and trying again before you are able to get it right and change the world. And the last one that I like a lot, there is a way to do it better. Find it. This is what innovation is all about. Looking for what is already existing, looking for areas for innovation in what is existing, looking for areas where what is currently existing as gaps, as lapses, and innovating that and making that yours and changing the world with it.